Good evening and welcome to the East Hampton Democratic Committee's hosting of the Hampshire District Register of Deeds Forum. My name is Ray Dranowski. I'm the chairperson of the committee, and on behalf of all of us on the committee, we'd like to thank you all for coming. We'd like to give special thanks tonight to Kathy Lynch and the staff at ECAT, East Hampton Community Access Television, for recording this evening's forum. We'd also like to thank the City of East Hampton and the Mayor, Michael Tosnick, for supporting us in our effort. Just want to do a quick couple of reminders that Friday, August 17th, is the last day to register to vote for this state primary, which is Thursday, September 6th. We have voter registration cards on the table at the back if you need one. Sunday, August 18th at 10:30 a.m., East Hampton will be hosting a canvass for Senate candidate Elizabeth Warren. If you would like to attend, sign-up sheets are available also at that table. I'd like to especially want to thank the candidates for taking an active role and interest in our district by running for Register of Deeds. Our district is only strengthened by a healthy, vigorous discussion of important issues. So thank you, Mr. O'Leary, Ms. Oberding, and Ms. McCracken. I'd like to now introduce and welcome our moderator for this evening, Ms. Nancy Stenberg. Ms. Stenberg is a longtime political activist and organizer, and she is a resident of Southwick, serving her second term on the Massachusetts Democratic State Committee, representing the 2nd Hamden, Hampshire District, and co-chairing the Field Services Subcommittee. Nancy has been in politics since 1996, first as a member of the Southwick-Tolland Regional School Committee for 9 years, followed by 2 terms as library trustee. Nancy's first foray into presidential politics came in 2004 as a volunteer for John Kerry. She was an elected delegate to the 2008 Democratic National Convention from the 1st Congressional District and has been a 6-time delegate to the Massachusetts Democratic State Convention. She is attending the 2012 Democratic National Convention as an alternate. Nancy works for the Massachusetts Teachers Association as a legislative political action team coordinator and has 2 grown children. Tonight's forum is being broadcast on channels 5 and 20 in East Hampton. And if you'd like to see them again, please go to the website www.ecatchannel5.org. Thank you all for coming, and please welcome our moderator, Ms. Nancy Stenberg.
Thank you, Ray, and good evening, everybody. I'm very pleased to be up here in East Hampton, where you have a very lively political life here, so I am always happy to come up here. A quick run-through of our format tonight. The time will be kept by a timekeeper who is sitting in the front row. He will hold up cards. The first card will be a green card with the number 1 on it, so the candidate will know they have 1 minute left in their 2-minute response. Then a yellow card with the number 30 on it will be held up when the candidate has 30 seconds left. And finally, a red card with the word stop on it will be held up when the candidate has no time left, although I did tell them I would let them finish their sentence. However, that's it. Please try to hold all applause until the debate is finished. We have chosen the order of opening statements by 3-way straw poll. Each candidate will give a 2-minute opening statement. Then each candidate will be asked a total of 4 questions by me. 2 of the questions they have received in advance, and 2 of them I will be selecting randomly from a piece of paper, so they will have not seen them, although they will be handed those questions on a piece of paper to read after I ask the question. All the questions were gathered anonymously from the current staff of the Hampshire Registry of Deeds office. Then each candidate will be allowed to ask 2 questions of the other candidates, and that is 2 questions total, which they may ask both questions of one other candidate or 1 each. That's up to them. And we have a different order for closing statements, and each candidate will give a 2-minute closing statement. All righty. Are we ready, candidates? Great. We're going to start with Mr. O'Leary and his 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to Chairperson Ray Janowski and the committee for having us here tonight. It's a great opportunity. Just a little bit about me. I was born and raised here in East Hampton. I'm a graduate of East Hampton High School. I now have a law practice here in town. I took over from my father, Sean O'Leary. He started the practice in 1977, and much of my family still lives here. My brother, Sean, is a firefighter, EMT. I recently moved to Southampton, where I live with my wife and our 3 girls. Before I went to law school, out of college, I went to work for Transamerica Commercial Finance Corporation. There I was responsible for a multi-million-dollar inventory of boats and sporting goods across Massachusetts and Connecticut. From there I went to Mass Mutual in the Retirement Services Division. There my responsibilities were guiding company owners through their 401k plans. That makes me nervous. The 401k plans. And not only that, just the federal rules and regulations surrounding it, but also the record-keeping function of Mass Mutual, employee contribution accounts, keeping those records intact. While I was at Mass Mutual, I was raising a young family, and I was going to law school at night, where I managed to graduate with honors, and I was in the law review there as well. The reason I tell you this is I've worked hard my whole life. I started at age 12 with the paper route and never looked back. And if elected, I would bring that same work ethic to the registry. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Ms. McCracken.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bonnie McCracken, and I'm from Amherst. Deeds tell our story. At the moment, it's a sad story. More than 560 homes have been foreclosed on in Hampshire County since 2007. In East Hampton, 52 homes have been foreclosed on, giving your community the highest foreclosure rate in our county, our 4th highest, sorry. I'm a land title examiner. I'm hired by attorneys because of my expertise in land titles and issues, and search our records for errors that affect your rights in your property. In April of 2012, the 60 Minutes Show aired an episode on robo-signed documents and mortgages. Our Registry of Deeds posted a known robo-signer list, and at that point, I was put on notice that fraud was being committed by the banks and affecting our property. My research shows that 28 of the 52 homes here in East Hampton have been fraudulently foreclosed on. There is one robo-signed document on at least 28 of these homes. On this board, you will see some of the Linda Green signatures that this 60 Minutes showed. These have been copied from documents at our Registry of Deeds, and they're affecting the integrity of our land registration system. The Register takes an oath to enforce the laws of the Commonwealth and to protect the integrity of our land records. Fraudulent documents are a national issue that needs to be addressed by the Register, who understands, who has researched the impact, and who has the knowledge to implement new recording regulations and standards for the entire state.
Thank you. And Ms. Olverding.
Good evening. Thank you to the East Hampton Democratic Town Committee for hosting this debate. Thank you to all in the audience for coming out. I have to say I don't think any of us expected to see quite so many people interested in the Registry of Deeds race. I appreciate you participating in the electoral process. I began campaigning when I was 5 years old, and my parents threw me out of a station wagon to campaign for Democrats in Ohio, where I grew up. We campaigned for everything from city councilors to judges to congressmen and even governors. Most recently, I volunteered for 2 years, coming over the mountain every week, sometimes with my own children in tow, Abigail, Jack, and Ellie, this time in a minivan, not a station wagon, to campaign for East Hampton's own Dave Sullivan. Working on that campaign inspired me to run for office. I want to be a voice for the people of Hampshire County. I want to protect our valuable land records, our history, and our homes. I want to contribute to the success of our community, safeguarding its future and the investment you have made here. The foreclosure crisis has highlighted the absolute necessity for proper record keeping. Electronic filing and the challenges of the economy will have an effect on the way the registry operates in the future. The challenge of the next register will be to meet the needs of the residents of Hampshire County amongst those changes. I have worked in organizations in transition, and I have managed that change. I want to preserve the old records with new technology and protect old traditions with new leadership. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good job. Deep breath. Excellent. Okay, now we'll get into the questions. I'm going to start with Ms. McCracken because she doesn't get to start with opening or closing statements. All right? All right, question number 1. Why would you like to become the Register of Deeds?
Well, I've spent my whole life in the Registry of Deeds. I've been doing land title research for more than 25 years, but I was first introduced as a small child to the land record system as my family chased genealogy of the person who built our home. But the reason why I'm running is that I recognize the importance of this position. I am invested in how well this office operates because I use these records for business purposes. Our registry is entrusted with important public records that affect our homes and our businesses. As a user of the Registry of Deeds, I have valuable hands-on knowledge. It's clear to me if the registry is not run by a professional who understands the mandate of this office and how the records are used by your attorney or title examiners, we will not be able to move forward with improving efficiency and monetization of this office. Anything that hinders your access or your attorney's access to these records will cost you time and money. My expertise in understanding the software system enabled me on several occasions to instruct the tech department at the Secretary of State's office on how people actually use the system. They implemented my suggestions and have made the indexes throughout Massachusetts Land Court more user-friendly. This has made it easier for your attorney to access accurate information when doing closings for your home. In these turbulent economic times, I see the role of the Register as a position that should be expanded so that residents can depend on the Register to advocate for them to protect their homes, families, and community. I'm running for this position because I know I can be an effective advocate for my community. It's about the deeds that happen, not the words.
Okay, just a reminder to the audience that these first 2 questions are the ones that the candidates have already seen. All right, Ms. Oberding, why would you like to become the Register of Deeds?
I have always believed that government exists for the good of the people. I'm currently the vice chair of the Finance Committee in Belchertown, where I live. I got my first taste of public service there. I would come home from late-night budget meetings or town meetings that would go late into the night. And my husband would be home watching the kids, and he'd say, "Gosh, that was really late. How'd it go?" And I'd say, "It was great. You know what? I really love this." And I realized that working on the Finance Committee and working on Dave Sullivan's campaign, that if I really believe that government exists for the people, and I love doing it, that I should do something about it. I should run for this office, which I can benefit from my particular skills and experience. The deep passion that I feel for the role of government and the responsibility it has for public service has become a call to public service for me. I was a history major in college, and the history of Hampshire County goes back to 1662. Learning and using that enduring history is what I like about this job. My background is in human resource management. I have a master's degree in human resource management from Emmanuel College in Boston, where I finished first in my class. I've worked as an HR manager at a manufacturing facility in Southbridge. I managed my own department and my own payroll, and I also managed payroll for the entire company of 300 employees. I've even helped other managers manage their staff. I've managed employee records, benefits, payroll, compensation, the pieces of a job that make up an individual's history. I would use the same care and responsibility that I took to manage those records as I would the deeds and the documents that make up our collective history.
Thank you. Mr. O'Leary, why would you like to become the Register of Deeds?
Well, the Register it's really an awesome responsibility of maintaining and overseeing all of our land records, our deeds, our mortgages, anything affecting our ownership. And this is what I do. I've been in private practice since 2003 as a practicing real estate attorney. This is right in my wheelhouse. And it's also an opportunity for me to serve the public. I've done hundreds of real estate closings. I use the registry on almost a weekly basis. I've drafted and reviewed thousands of documents for recording. I know the system. I know how it needs to be done correctly. And there are recording standards that every register must abide by when they're taking in documents. Not every document fits neatly into those standards. Sometimes you need the register to make a determination. Sometimes it's got to be done that moment. You don't have time to say, come back tomorrow, let me look it up. Also, for the past 9 years, I've dedicated myself to my clients, protecting their interests, serving members of the community in East Hampton. I would continue that same dedication to the citizens if elected as the next register. My goal is to make the registry more accessible, more visible to the public. I want to get out and meet people. I want to hold informational seminars. In fact, I have a homestead talk coming up in October in the Council of Aging here in town. And also, I think it's important to reach out to the schools, the colleges, have them, if they want to bring students through, even after hours, I'd go to the registry and to show them what we do. So, in short, this is not a political, I don't have any other political aspirations aside from serving the public and protecting deeds.
Okay, very nice. All right, the second question is somewhat long, but I have practiced it a couple times, so hopefully I'll get through it. Ms. McCracken, there has been some talk of abolishing the registered land court department of the registry, which involves a more intensive search and recording process. As register, what would your thoughts be regarding this?
Well, I think you need to rephrase that statement because registered land, land court is a department of the trial courts and can't be abolished. They do issue decrees that are recorded in the registered land portion of the Registry of Deeds. But for Hampshire County, we only record 309 documents last year, 1.1% of our total documents. 2010, it was 391 documents. Why? It'll cost us more to abolish the system than it will be to keep it going. The title search that you're referring to is only done once, and this is for the purposes of issuing a decree. And the Commonwealth of Massachusetts issues you a certificate saying your title is clear, whereas in a regular transaction, it's based on only your attorney's title certificate. So as a consumer, I would not want to have my title affected by losing the added protection that land court allows for it. Our land court is only staffed by one person, so we aren't even using resources. This person is also better trained than most of the staff members because she has access to land court to answer questions. I see no purpose in abolishing land court. It's not in the best interest for the residents of Hampshire County.
Thank you. Ms. Olberding, There's been some talk of abolishing the registered land court department of the registry, which involves a more intensive search and recording process. As register, what would your thoughts be regarding this?
Well, the current system has been in place for over 300 years, since the beginning of the county. So it shouldn't be casually dispensed with, nor should it be retained simply because that's the way we've always done things. The records are tied to the land. By statute, they must be recorded where the land lies. Because the state guarantees the title to the registered land, there's a higher standard for accepting documents for registered land as opposed to recorded land, as Bonnie just explained. Land court does tend to be conservative in its interpretation of the rules, and because those rules are strictly enforced, sometimes the practitioners grow frustrated with the system. One of the current problems for land court is its hesitancy to use new technology. Electronic recording is done in some of the registries across the Commonwealth, but in none of the registries that do electronic recording do they do any registered land. It's really not plausible to curtail registered land. In fact, I would propose that there is a method of tracking ownership to documents that is more efficient in a computer-based world of the future than in the traditional land recording system. With registered land, the owner is given a certificate of title, as Bonnie mentioned. Any encumbrances that affect that title are annotated to that certificate. That can provide a map by which we can connect to all systems across the Commonwealth. For instance, we could possibly link them to assessor's maps. So we could use the annotations that are with the certificate, and the same way we track automobiles, we could track registered land. It's possible to
Okay.
use this traditional
Time's
system.
up. Thank you. Mr. Leary, same question. There has been some talk of abolishing the registered land court department of the registry, which involves a more intensive search and recording process. As register, what would your thoughts be regarding this?
Well, I think if I'm understanding the issue correctly, the land court is a court in Boston where if there's a land dispute, they settle it, and that becomes the title to the land. The issue is not dispensing with the court itself, but with how we're keeping these records. Bonnie's right, out of 30,000 documents last year, 300 were land court. The problem that registries across the state are having, for instance, Middlesex South, approximately 50% of their staff is dedicated to the land court. It's a huge drain on resources. And the problem with the current system is a couple of problems. First, it's time consuming. It takes the staff person a long time to take in the document with the certificates, et cetera, as they were talking about. Secondly, you can't e-record or electronically record a land court document because you have to physically bring that document to the registry. And third, the registry actually has to keep that original copy. So Hampshire, they have 300 deeds, fine. Middlesex, if they have 10,000 a year, or whatever the number is, it becomes implausible to keep that system going. And it's not a discussion for today, but there's got to be a way to combine the two recording systems, because the land court district, it's right in the same building. It's a seamless, it's the same staff, just a different database. So there's got to be a way to combine the two, and that's what I would advocate.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I'm going to ask each candidate 2 questions of my choosing. I'm going to mix them up, make it interesting. All right, Ms. McCracken, as register, will you be accessible to the public, to the users, and to the employees if they have problems and/or questions?
Yes.
Good answer.
I've operated a business out of the Registry of Deeds for more than 25 years. I've covered all of the registries in Western Massachusetts, in Central Massachusetts, and in Essex County and throughout the Cape and Dukes County. I'm accessible to the registry all the time. I couldn't, starting my whole career in the registry in 1986, but prior to that, I was introduced to land documents as a small child because we did genealogical research through the Registry of Deeds. I don't know why I would not be accessible to the public. It's a full-time job, and it needs a full-time register. I think the register needs to be on the front line to teach the public how to use the records, because public records are not public unless the public has access to use them. And the employees, it's a great staff. I've known them forever. We've raised our children together. They're very knowledgeable, and they're very dedicated to their jobs. But I look forward to working with them and also teaching them more about the land record system. Thank you.
Okay, very nice. Ms. Oberding, what would you do as the Register of Deeds if a robo-signed document is presented for recording?
If a robo-signed document was presented for recording, as Bonnie showed you, there is a list of known robo-signers, and the registry maintains that list and would call attention to any document, to any person presenting a document that had those signatures on it. Unfortunately, it is not the job of the register to refuse to record documents. If documents are presented and they meet the recording standards, that is, they're legible, able to be duplicated, then we are duty-bound to record those documents. To refuse a robo-signed document is to question the underlying title of the document. According to the Real Estate Bar Association in Massachusetts, it's not certain that a Register of Deeds has the authority to reject a robo-signed document. It is possible that the documents are properly authorized under the laws of agency. So, for instance, in the chart that Bonnie showed you, there were many Linda Green signatures. But it is not the job of the register to determine if that Linda Green signature is in fact the right Linda Green. Or perhaps she authorized her signature to be used on certain documents. The registry is not an enforcement agency. I would, however, caution anyone bringing those documents to seek the advice of an attorney. It's the attorney who can provide the remedy. The register cannot give legal advice, and the register cannot provide title exams.
Thank you. Mr. O'Leary, what needs to be done in the Hampshire Registry of Deeds to prepare for electronic recording, and how would you pay for the installation of electronic recording?
Well, the transition to electronic recording is not that complicated. It's essentially the attorneys or whoever's recording the documents, they either contract with an outside vendor or the Commonwealth is coming out with their own portal. It's a website where you can send the documents through there. There is what's called a technology fund. For every document that's recorded, $5 out of any fee goes into this state-run fund, or state-managed fund, rather, which a lot of registers call the lifeline because it doesn't go against your budget. So any updated computers or software, well, the state would supply the hardware, but any additional requirements would come out of that. So it's not as challenging as people think, and attorneys are creatures of habit and afraid of change, and I deal with a lot of attorneys who don't use email or even like to fax. So I get the pushback, but in reality it's not it's not that big of a process.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McCracken, what is your long-term vision for Hampshire Registry of Deeds?
Keep the documents accessible to the public. I've spoken to a lot of people at the Historical Society, and they're very concerned about our ancient records. And also, many of our older citizens do not use computers. I would like to be able to keep our old records available to the public for their use, and our index. Our index is a great tool for doing genealogy because every name, whoever owned property in Hampshire County, is before you. So if you need to look at Francis Dickinson, every Francis Dickinson in Hampshire County appears before you. It's a great resource for doing titles and for doing genealogy. I do see that electronic filing is going to start. They started e-recording in Great Barrington today. No documents have yet been recorded when I spoke to the register at about 1 o'clock. But the most important thing is to have safeguards in place, because we are a race notice state, that whenever the first document goes on, takes precedent or is the senior lien. So we need to have a board, probably like Wall Street or Ticker or whatever, where it would say what documents have come in and what property that they are affecting. Because the people recording need to know that their property is not being encumbered by the previous document. So you need to have safeguards in place. You need to keep the documents accessible for everyone. And that's how I see the long-term vision for the registry.
Thank you. Ms. Oberding, will you bring in an assistant register, and if so, what will his or her role be?
Well, Patty Plaza is the assistant register currently, and having been there almost as long as Mary Ann Donahue, the previous register, for over 20 years, I would most likely leave it up to her for how long she'd like to stay. Obviously, at some point, I would have to bring in an assistant register, and that role of that assistant would be not to do everything I do. I think they would have to learn to manage the office. They would help me with the budget. They would help me manage the staff, vacation schedules. They would help me with strategic planning for the office. Things like not only the electronic filing that's going to be happening, but just some issues that aren't as exciting, such as our books are not being printed anymore. How long are we going to keep them on the shelves? Where are we going to store them? Storage is expensive. We need to make decisions about the backup of documents. By statute, all of the records are backed up on microfilm currently. I'm not sure that's the best format or the cheapest. One of the ways we can save money down the line is to combine our efforts with other registries. And if we would work with the legislators to change the statute to get more advanced technology, we could share that storage cost with them. The assistant register would help me with all of these jobs, be a backup to me, and we would both be a backup to anybody working at the counter. Our most important objective is to provide quality customer service to all the people of Hampshire County and anyone coming into the registry.
Thank you. And Mr. O'Leary, if elected Register of Deeds, do you plan to give up your practice?
I don't.
Okay.
It's not complicated.
He's got that one.
Yeah. The answer is yes, absolutely. The register it's a full-time job. I know there's been other registers around the Commonwealth who've given the majority of the good ones a bad name. I can assure you that would not be the case. It is a full-time job. You know, and then some. You got to be there for the people, you got to be there for the staff, you got to be there to answer questions. Oftentimes when I'm in the registry recording, I'll see somebody asking one of the staff members a question, and they say, well, hold on, and I almost want to get up and go over and say, hey, you know, this is how you do it. But in a nutshell, yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Now we are at the portion of the forum where the candidates will ask each other questions, and after they ask the question, the candidate to which they ask the question will have 2 minutes for a response. Then the candidate asking the question will have 1 minute for a rebuttal. Are we ready? Okay. Ms. McCracken, we'll start with you.
To Mary. Presently, the registry is staffed with 7 people. The Registry of Deeds records an average of 120 documents per day. In reviewing your website, you've proposed a Registry of Deeds satellite office in Belchertown, where you reside. What type of preliminary review or analysis have you conducted to determine the demand for this, the feasibility, or to justify the additional cost to taxpayers for this office?
Well, first of all, it is just a proposal, and it stems from talking to real estate attorneys, realtors, surveyors, and other users of the registry who come from the other side of Hampshire County. Attorneys in Ware don't even schedule appointments for closings at the registry or recordings at the registry on Friday afternoons because it takes so long and they can't count on what the bridge traffic coming over to Northampton is going to be. So, and currently in Hampden County, there is a satellite office in the Westfield Courthouse. Belchertown, for instance, I did not propose that simply because that's my hometown. It's because the Eastern Hampshire District Court resides there. Now, it may be a moot point because there has been a proposal to close the Westfield Courthouse, and I know that people in Northampton would also like to bring the employees of the Eastern Hampshire Courthouse back into Northampton. I'm simply trying to streamline the process. I have no intention of expanding the budget whatsoever. A satellite office could consist of simply a kiosk where electronic filing can be done. It wouldn't, I'm a member of the Finance Committee in Belchertown. I'm very much aware of the budget constraints of the state of Massachusetts. My goal for the registry at all times is to increase the efficiency, the transparency, and the accessibility of the office. If I were to have a kiosk, a facility, a satellite location in Belchertown, it would only be because it would achieve those objectives.
Okay, Ms. McCracken, you have 1 minute for a rebuttal, and you will see the yellow and the red cards during this, okay?
Okay. So, Worcester County is a much larger county, and they have no need for a satellite office. And with e-recording coming in place, I see no need. And that's an issue with a kiosk would be unmanned, and how would there be documents be reviewed prior to being recording? There's a lot of things that need to be addressed because it's the integrity of our documents that need to be protected.
All right, thank you. And you may ask your second question now.
They already asked my one. I regularly teach classes at historical societies and
Who are you
senior
asking
centers.
this to?
Oh, Tim.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
And senior centers on how to retrieve genealogical clues from our land records. Many people tracing their own family genealogy or history of their homes call or visit the Registry of Deeds to research the land records. If someone called from Kansas City about wanting to do this type of research on their family or their former homestead located in Hadley, what 2 ancient resources could you direct them to that are available online through the Hampshire County Registry of Deeds?
Can you repeat that? No, I'm kidding. What 2 ancient resources?
Yes.
The Hall of Records in Northampton, in the City Council building.
No, located online through the Hampshire County Registry of Deeds
Oh.
website.
Just the unimaged search function.
Okay, do you want to give your 1-minute rebuttal now? I was hoping we weren't talking about ancient people.
I know where they're all buried, but that's okay. Well, they've done a really great job in Hampshire County in imaging all the maps and documents. In Plan Book 2, on page 173 and 2, you can find the 1873 Beards Atlas, which I use on a regular basis to confirm boundaries and to do genealogical research. Also, recently, the Register did a really great job in imaging our old proprietor maps, and just recently became available through the unindexed document tab by knowing a certain code that can be entered.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Olberding, your 2 questions, and please state who you're asking them to.
Okay. Mr. O'Leary, in February of 2012, you switched your party affiliation from unenrolled to Democratic Party. Why did you switch, and what Democratic values made you change?
Well, let me preface that by saying I've been supporting Democrats my whole life. As early as 1980, I believe it was Don Dunphy running for DA. I just remember going around with my dad in his little yellow Dodge Colt with my 2 brothers and this giant wooden sandwich board on the roof of the car, and every time we took a corner, we'd have to hang onto the rope, handing out leaflets, etc. And again, for Mike Dukakis in 1988, we were involved in that campaign. Over the years, and at age 18, I registered as a Democrat. Over the years, I guess I just became disenfranchised with some of the political shenanigans, the backroom deals, the favoritism, and I unenrolled. And I think other people felt the same way because there's almost 52% of the voters in Mass are unenrolled. So I'm running now as a Democrat because I feel that the party's goals are most closely aligned with mine: affordable health care, affordable education, sustainable jobs, paying your fair share of taxes, things like that. So I'm proud to be a Democrat, but I'm also proud to be an independent thinker. So that's why I came back.
Okay, Ms. Olberding, 1 minute rebuttal.
Well, I'm a proud, lifelong Democrat. I grew up in Ohio, as I said, where Democrats needed all the help they could get. So I learned early the importance of voting, and I take it very seriously. My birthday, coincidentally, is on the anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, which allows women the right to vote. I believe the government exists to protect the needs of the people. The values that I have are the ones that I share with the people in this room: health care, education, workers' rights, women's rights. I firmly believe that these democratic values should be represented at all levels of government. As a mother, I know the importance of protecting my family. As a Democrat, I see the role of elected office to protect all of our families.
Okay, thank you. And your second question, please.
My second question is also to Mr. O'Leary. I just wanted to know, what is your opinion of the work of John O'Brien? Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to ask Mr. O'Leary, what is his opinion of the work of John O'Brien?
John O'Brien, the Register? I guess I don't have an opinion.
Okay,
Do you want me to rebut then?
you have 1 minute.
Okay. Well, John O'Brien is the activist Register of Essex South. Bonnie mentioned him earlier, or referred to his work earlier when she said it was on 60 Minutes. His vigilance in defending homeowners against unlawful foreclosures has brought national attention to the crisis of robo-signing and predatory lending practices. I respect his work. As a Register of Deeds for over 35 years, he certainly has the clout to stand firm in his beliefs and take action. But he's not been without controversy. The Real Estate Bar Association of Massachusetts issued a 9-page letter to him just last year questioning his right to take the actions that he's done, including putting crime scene tape all around the registry. Their concern was that it would call into question the records at the registry. The Real Estate Bar's most important mission is also to protect the integrity of the records.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. O'Leary, your 2 questions, and please tell us who you are directing them to.
My first question is for Bonnie, and this is, it's been quite an experience, this campaign so far. And my question for Bonnie is, to date, what is your most favorite aspect of it, and what's your least favorite?
I think being out there, meeting people, it's been the great part about campaigning and hearing, I'm sure as you are, going door to door, knocking on people's door. They've got a lot of questions about the Registry of Deeds. Just the other day, I knocked on a neighbor's door, and they said, "I can't believe you're here. I have these documents my attorney gave me. I just got back from New York." And she had to know, how do I do this? Just to be able to answer their questions. I'm not practicing law, and I have no intentions to practicing law while being register, but being able to answer people's questions, to be a resource. Even the other day, I talked to an individual. He said, somebody's trying to move my boundary line. They're encroaching on my property. And all I had to do is say, all you need to do is call a land surveyor, get your boundaries established, and then, if you need to, you can call your attorney. Thank you.
You have a rebuttal
No
for that?
rebuttal.
Okay. And your second question?
The second one is for Mary. If you were elected for the immediate future, how would you take advantage of the technology fund?
For the immediate future, even before taking office, Patty Plaza has already used funds available to install the UPS system, the uninterrupted power supply. So I would ensure that that was implemented and installed for use immediately. I would, on day one, lobby the Secretary of the Commonwealth, Bill Galvin, to implement electronic recording. The technology fund is, as you mentioned, is a general fund that's collected from fees at a surcharge at the registry. It is all given out at the discretion of the Secretary of the Commonwealth. There's no, it's not done proportionally, it's not done by priority, it's simply done at his discretion. So I would immediately lobby for, to begin work on electronic filing. Electronic filing, as everybody has heard, is the next big change that will come to the registry. Its purpose will increase the efficiency, the accessibility, and the transparency of the office. There are only a few registers that have it now. Middlesex North was the first, and they've had it about 5 years. Currently, that accounts for about 30 to 35% of their business. In these trying economic times when we have lost employees to attrition and not been able to replace them. Electronic filing has made up for the efficiency when we have lost staff. So to answer your question, the electronic filing is really my first priority.
All right, do you have a rebuttal?
I would just add that it's absolutely critical, like Bonnie had mentioned. You need some kind of ticker or some kind of board that shows the documents coming in, because if you're in line and you record a document that somebody else has just put a lien on or, heaven forbid, conveyed away, you wouldn't know it without that information being constant.
You mean the ones like in Hampden County?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. We are now at the 2-minute closing statement portion. And we are going to begin with Ms. Oberding.
My opponents spend a great deal of time in the Registry of Deeds. That is undisputed. But I think that has kept their focus on the past and possibly the current uses of the registry. It's very important to look forward in what the registry of the future will be like. For instance, there was just legislation passed in this last session of the state legislature that a commission will be formed to study the efficacy of the registries going forward. It comes from the concern of Boston in that several of the counties have more than one registry. As I say, on the Finance Committee, I am well aware that the Commonwealth is lacking in revenues and needs to look for cost-saving measures wherever they can. I have the breadth of knowledge about the future issues facing the registry as it changes elected leadership for the first time in 20 years. I've talked with registers across the Commonwealth, and I'm amazed at how differently they all view their job. Some are activists and politicians, such as Mr. O'Brien. Some write blogs, such as Mr. Howe. Some hold press conferences, like Mr. Ash, or have a cable access show, like Mr. Kaczynski in Greenfield. I'm the second youngest in a family of 7 children. I've always felt that I was the best position in my family because I could learn from everyone else, taking a little bit of their experience and using it to help me with what works and what doesn't. I would then impart my wisdom and lessons learned on my younger sister, who's here tonight. That would be my approach as register. I will use what I've learned from the other registers and what I've learned from the people of Hampshire County as I've campaigned in the 20 cities and towns. I will represent the diverse needs of our communities, whether it is ownership of county roads in Middlefield or easements from the Clark School in Northampton. I'm sorry? Oh, I didn't see it.
Okay, Ms. McCracken?
Through my work as a land title examiner, I examine hundreds, if not thousands, documents a day. I know how title documents affect your property, and I will bring that knowledge to this office. But most importantly, I realized in this foreclosure crisis that more than 5,000 soldiers had lost their homes nationwide, and I took action. This has been an issue that has been around since 1940, but I proposed legislation last year to Representative Story, and it passed, and the governor signed it on May 31st. From now on, all a soldier has to do is check a box on a declaration of homestead, and their home is protected from foreclosure because of the legislation I had passed under the Valor Act signed by the governor on May 31st. I haven't been campaigning that much lately because I've been out talking to veterans groups about this new legislation so that they can go out into the community and educate our soldiers about their protection. The night before the election, I'll be in Belchertown at the American Legion. The day after the election, I'll be in Orange talking to the area veterans for the entire Western Massachusetts. That has been my focus, is to protect our homes, our families, and our communities.
Thank you. And Mr. O'Leary.
Thank you. Well, again, I want to say this has been an exciting campaign, and I'm really glad there's three of us running. I think it's great. I think it's great to get out there and meet all the voters. It's been really eye-opening experience. I also think it's great that we live in America and our elected officials don't appoint successors. The voters do, the people at home. So before you make a decision, I'd ask you, in a minute and 40 seconds, I'm not going to be able to convince you one way or the other, but I'd ask you to really look at the qualifications of each of us, the skill sets, who you think is best suited for this position. And I believe you'll find that I'm that candidate, and I would ask you for your support after you make an informed decision on September 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, and thank you, audience. You have been terrific, and a hearty round of applause for our candidates.
Thanks so much. Good job.
Can you grab a pic with Nancy and myself, the three of us?